Welcome back, everybody. This is Mike from the Pitch Please podcast. Today, I'm joined by Vincent from Seven Dish. Vincent, I'm going to kick it over to you to give us a quick introduction about your role at Seven Dish, and maybe you can give us a little bit of background on your career journey and what's led you here.
Sure. Well, first off, Mike, thanks for having me here. It's really great to be here. And so I'm actually the founder and CEO of Seven Dish.
Amazing. So yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay, let's start this again. So I'm the founder and CEO of Seven Dish.
Actually, maybe I'll just reset the whole thing just to make life easier. All right. Shop restarting. Welcome back, everybody, to the Pitch Please podcast. This is Mike here, and today I'm joined by Vincent from Seven Dish. Vincent, why don't you kick us off with a little bit of an introduction of your role at Seven Dish and maybe a bit on your own career journey and background of what led you here?
Sure. Well, thanks, Mike, for having me here. It's really great. So I'm the founder and CEO of Seven Dish and currently responsible for many things as any founder of a startup. And a bit about myself. I think I can qualify myself as an entrepreneur and builder at heart. Was born and raised in Montreal and always had an interest in technology. And I naturally gravitated towards the space as a career choice. And I was really fascinated with the start of the internet and its potential pre-2000, and got to work on first generations of media and entertainment websites while I was studying. And after graduating from McGill University in computer engineering, I got to start my career at Accenture and spent a couple years on consulting on very large scale projects, whether in utility or retail. And I got really the entrepreneurship call in 2006. I had the opportunity to start a company with my partner at the time, Louis Fournier. And we got to start a company called Orckestra, which initially was a consultancy in the digital and e-com space. And we were looking to offer high quality, high value digital and e-commerce services, but at a human scale, as opposed to an Accenture with 100,000 people plus at the time. And we got to help some pretty large enterprise retailers and distributors like Sobeys, Giant Eagle, Mary Kay, Stanley Black & Decker, to either enter or improve their digital presence and play in the digital arena. And about midway in the journey, we pivoted in 2011 as major trends of mobile, social, and cloud were converging at the time. We got to build a new generation of e-com or omni-channel commerce platform and really became a SaaS platform provider with that pivot. While still offering some value-added services. So those were really exciting times. We had new paradigms, both for tech providers and for retailers, such as cloud and mobility. And from a consumer perspective, mobility and social really changed the game for how consumers evolved their shopping behavior, how it complexified the shopper journeys, and really was a great puzzle to solve for. And we kind of grew our way into this, got to specialize also quite a bit into the grocery space. And we eventually got acquired in 2017 by a company called MDF Commerce. So, I mean, in a nutshell, I mean, during about 15 years as part of that journey, got to work with great and talented colleagues, customers, and partners. We got to build and grow a fantastic team, raise some funds, and eventually sell the company. So when that part or that chapter was over, we as part of being acquired, we got straight into COVID, and it was kind of a crazy time for e-commerce companies like us, seeing 10x traffic overnight. So got to ride that part of the journey after the integration, and then decided to move on to other things, I'd say. And after some reflection as to what to do next, I wanted to get back into the game and started a new company called Seven Dish.
That's super cool. So the world of SaaS and building teams and building companies is not new to you. You did it not only for yourself, and congratulations on a successful exit. That's always a big milestone for a lot of founders or people that start businesses. But even during your time at Orckestra Technologies, you were actually working on these types of problems and challenges every single day. And so you've naturally been able to bring a lot of those skills. So maybe talk to us about, what inspired, we won't get into the details of 7dish and everything about it yet, but maybe what inspired this idea around 7dish as the next step in your journey?
Well, I mean, when you look at food as a whole. So I can say that I'm a foodie. I enjoy cooking. I enjoy eating. And when you get children, so I have two young girls. They're 7 and 9. The whole weekly experience changes drastically. Whereas before you had time, you could take the time to cook on a weeknight. You're not as much on a schedule. But with kids, you have less time. Your children have ever-changing tastes and needs, and the energy and motivation to make dinner exciting is harder to find. So combine that with the fact that at Orckestra we work with a lot of grocery chains. We're very aware about that part of customers' journeys, but there was an issue with having all of that experience for customers to make all of their planning for the week easier, coming just from the grocery chain. Families have unique needs. They might shop from different places. They might combine groceries with other types of goods that are coming from other retailers or other restaurants or etc. So having a holistic view on your weekly needs can't necessarily just come from the grocery chain. So there was kind of that, I'd say the first mile of the journey for families is kind of still very disconnected and fragmented. And that kind of initiated the thought of how can we tie all this together to simplify the lives of families on a weekly basis.
So it was a pain point that was literally close to home.
Yeah, close to many homes.
Yeah. And so your journey at Orckestra, you said, you were at Accenture before, then Orckestra, now 7dish. But earlier you mentioned that you sort of always knew that you wanted to be an entrepreneur. That was like your own style. What would you say had inspired you, and when did you sort of know for you that entrepreneurship was a future path?
Yeah, it's a great question. I guess I can say that from a young age, thinking of ideas, putting them into motion, whether it's commercial or not, was something that was kind of instinctive to me. So whether it was mowing some lawns and trying to make a business out of it, or later on being a consultant or trying to build websites in the pre 2000 years, and trying to figure out how can we make a business out of this. It was always in the back of my mind, and I think I took initially the path of the standard path of you graduate and you get a job in parallel. And just a couple of years after, I figured out that probably that wasn't the best thing for me, and therefore we decided to start a company. So I think it was always there in the background, and when the opportunity came, you kind of jumped on it.
And I'm sure you're not alone. I'm sure there's many people, even myself, if you were to talk to most of my friends, there's always an itch to look at the world around you and come up with ideas for problems you're seeing. And so some people just love this space. And for me, this is a big piece of the podcast, which is learning about other people's itches and what are all these challenges and opportunities they see in the world around us. As you were going through your journey at Orckestra, or maybe it was even before that, or maybe it's now, are there any companies specifically that you look up to? And if so, why?
Well, actually, it's interesting you asked that. One of the companies that I really look up to and enjoy seeing their progress is a company from a very good friend of mine called Mark Boscher, who founded a company called Unido 8 years ago. And it's essentially a SaaS platform that offers two-way workflow automation between multiple solutions like Asana, Trello, Salesforce, Airtable, and many others. And what I really appreciate about what Mark did And what he built with his team is innovation around the employee experience. So especially in a market today where there's labor shortage and it's hard to find talent, they really found a great way to innovate from recruiting to retention in topics like salary transparency and equity, building a great culture internally, and just being a really great place to work at. So I think that, as part of a lot of evolution that we have in companies today, working on how you treat your employees and how you make them feel great about working in your company is going to be really the best formula ultimately to get success.
That's cool. It's a noble mission, and it's super awesome that the founder of that and are able to still connect and bounce ideas, get mentorship, and stay close. That's awesome. I'll have to check them out after the show.
Yeah, sure.
Let's talk maybe a little bit about 7dish next. What we love to do on the Pitch Please podcast is start with your pitch so that we can learn a bit more, and then we can go from there. So, Vincent, your pitch, please.
Sure. So, what's for dinner? I get that question every single day. I'm a parent of 2 young girls, and like millions of busy and stressed parents out there that are more and more conscious about food costs, we all need help with our weekly food needs. And at 7dish, we're building a meal planning and smart shopping app that helps families eat a varied and healthy diet with personalized weekly meal options, save hours every week, and save up to $250 a month with smarter grocery purchases that are optimized for quantity and price. Our goal is to improve the health and quality of life of families 1 week at a time.
That's awesome. Now, you told us earlier that it got started a little bit off your own frustrations and identification of this need in your own life and many people around you. What was sort of the compelling moment of when you decided, okay, I'm going to take this problem and I actually want to solve it? What was there like a certain day or a certain moment in your life where you were like, this is the idea I want to jump on?
Well, it's interesting because it's something that grew in my mind through the years of working in my prior company, because we were exposed to a lot of the food space, working with grocery chains and restaurants and etc. And and by trying to get our customers to go all the way to where I now want to go, we realized that this wasn't really possible for them to go all the way, just because when you want to offer a service that's customer first, you can't be bound necessarily by your own infrastructure and business model and barriers. So I guess the ultimate moment was, this cannot come from the infrastructure; it needs to come from the customer first. And with the timing of not only the fact that I wanted to move on personally to another challenge, but also the whole pandemic created a great timing for this type of idea, where all of the food infrastructure, delivery infrastructure exploded during the pandemic, and now we're left with a more mature space with regards to the last mile and food delivery, and a bigger awareness in the market around the usage of food services and apps. So it was also a timing of when the time was right to bring that type of service into market.
Makes sense. So maybe teach me a little bit about how 7dish works, or it will work for the user. And as a customer or potential customer myself, how would I use 7dish in my weeks or months or days or wherever it fits into people's lives?
Sure. Well, essentially, the application is to be your personal assistant, where you can start with a question of what am I going to eat this week, or what do I want to eat tonight. And the application essentially will learn a bit about you initially, where you can state any preferences or restrictions that you have, any specific cookware you have, like do you have a barbecue, do you have a smoker, do you have an oven, an air fryer, and also learn a bit about your family. Do you have any allergies or diets or medical conditions that would affect what you can or can't eat? And then based on that, as a baseline, we'll be able to help you get a personalized experience in terms of searching for meal options, or literally getting inspired with either a full week worth of recipes and meal options, or just a single one. And our how the app works essentially is really to take off a lot of the burden of your weekly tasks. So, generating your shopping list automatically, and then allowing you to get a full grocery cart for the grocers you want to shop at, so that you can get a sense of how much would it cost for the week, and just make your life easier if you want to order online, or just take that cart and shop in store. So, and as you keep on using the application, we'll know more and more what you like, what you don't like, and you end up getting a real personal assistant that really knows you and understands you.
That's cool. So there's like an initial profile set up, if you will. And is it web-based, phone-based, app-based?
It's going to be web and mobile.
Okay. And so you put in your preferences as a user, but over time, it also learns more about you and your habits and trends. And then you were saying something about it helping compile the shopping list or the shopping cart across the entire recommended meal plans for the week. First, maybe a question on how the meal plans work. Do you say, hey, I need 3 dinners this week, 2 lunches, the rest I might not be home, make me some great meals? And then it looks across, it recommends those, and then also groups, hey, if you need ground beef for 3 of the meals, here's how much ground beef you need to buy total. Is that sort of how it works?
Yeah, well, interesting point. So a couple of things there. So first thing, the idea is to make it configurable to your needs. So to your point, if you want dinners for Monday to Thursday, for instance, which are the weekly more problematic meals for a lot of families, and you want also lunch options or quick and easy lunch options, so you'll have a certain set of configurations to help the recommender to provide the plan for you. And then obviously you have the opportunity to swap out easily options, or the option that wouldn't fit. And the more and more we'll get users to test it out and try it out, we'll see what people want to tailor and customize versus keeping it simple. And then for the shopping list, what we're looking to do down the road is to be able to influence your meal options based on what's available at your favorite grocery store, for instance, this week, both in terms of availability, assortment, seasonality, and price. But we also want to optimize the meal options based on that. So to your point, if you've got 2 recipes with ground beef for the week, how can you optimize, let's say, something that would be a family pack at a better price from the grocery store? So we're looking to optimize on both ends, which ends up saving you money, and also ends up wasting less food, which are 2 key objectives that we have.
That's super cool. And so will it also pull in, and maybe it does already, like couponing or discounts or things that are on special that week across all of the different, I think you call them infrastructure, but essentially the grocery stores in your neighborhood or area?
Yeah, so the idea would be to provide a view of what are grocery carts going to cost in different grocery stores in your area. So based on participating grocery stores, or the ones in certain demographics, so that you would be able to, make an educated guess towards where you want to shop if you want to go a different option than your favorite store, for instance.
That's cool. And I know on your website you have meet your lifestyle, nutrition, and health goals. Is there actually a component to set health goals as well, and use that as an intelligent component into the meal plans or meal preps? Like say, I'm doing a keto diet this week, or I'm trying to do a more vegetable-based meals. Is that like an input that you're able to choose and customize?
Yeah, so you're going to be able to choose the type of diet that you want to have initially. So there's the concept of the family's profile. So usually the person that's in charge of choosing what people eat for the week in a family will kind of create a family profile out of everybody's preferences or restrictions. But if you want it as an individual to say, well, I'll go on a paleo strict diet or on a keto diet, you could spec that out, and then the meal recommendations are going to be valid for that type of diet. So that can just speed things up. Same thing for vegetarian, or even if you like a certain type of cuisine and you want it to be vegetarian, you can specify those as well, so that it can help speed up the options that are proposed to you or what would be recommended to you into a meal plan.
That's super cool. Now we've been talking about who uses this and kind of beating around the bush on it, but who is sort of your intended primary audience? It sounds like it could be for anyone, but who's sort of the primary audience that you think are going to use 7-Dish, and then who would be the kind of secondary audience in any regard?
Yeah, that's a very good question. One of the first ones we ask ourselves when we get something started. So although, as you said, it could apply to a lot of people, the segment that we think is going to benefit the most out of this application is busy working parents with young children at home. That are feeling stressed or with the mental charge of figuring out what's for dinner every week. So that would be kind of the ideal candidate. And although there's a lot of alternatives for options when you don't have time to cook, for instance, those families have tried alternatives like ready to eat, ready to cook, like meal kits or just takeout. But they just haven't found what they needed fully, either because it's a question of cost, unhealthy choices, or lack of variety, or simply just too much packaging that you have with meal kits filling up your recycling bin, and therefore they're looking for different solutions or a better solution. So that would be our initial segment that we're looking for, and out of that segment, any family that has people in the family that have allergies or need to follow specific restrictions in terms of food really limits out a lot of the options out there. So those are actively looking also for solutions to help them out with their challenges. So those would be the primary segments we're looking at. The whole space of individual meal following is something that is also another huge market. But as any startup with limited time and resources, families is target number one.
Yeah, and it makes sense. Like, other people are going to be able to use it. To your point, if I'm meal planning for the whole week, even if I'm an individual, families obviously is the primary goal. But even if I'm an individual, the concept of 5 different meals and it helps optimize what I need to buy. I think whether it's an individual or families, you really hit on a good point there, which is there's a whole kind of concept of sustainability built into what you're doing here, because you're going to buy closer to what you need and intend to use rather than overbuying. It'll help kind of customize that into your meals, correct?
Absolutely. If we can optimize for both price based on what's at in a discount or a good price versus to the average for that product, and on top of that optimize for quantities as well, then you'll minimize the waste. There's so many statistics showing that people that do planning or plan more properly their week will end up wasting less. So the better we can help families to both save in terms of quantity and price, the better they'll end up in the end.
That's awesome. And so what does the output look like? Is it, hey, for my Monday, I would open my dinner and I would get a step-by-step set of ingredients and instructions to cook that specific meal, almost like a Good Food or a Hello Fresh that people might be familiar with?
Well, so it's a bit different. So one of the issues that having talked to a lot of families is the variety conundrum. So people essentially lack the time to find inspiration or find it cumbersome to just search on the web to find options, and therefore they end up eating the same thing over and over. So what we wanted to do is to make the web available within the application in a standardized and enriched way, so that instead of just having that limited set of recipes, you might like Jamie Oliver, or you might like Ricardo in Quebec, which is very popular. So we make those recipes available as part of the recommendations. So therefore, you can once you have a meal that's recommended, you can just go directly to the source and get your instruction to cook the recipe. But essentially, you have access to the ingredients, the instructions, and also the nutritional information for that recipe.
That's amazing. So honestly, the entire web is the cookbook. So once you select the meals that were interesting or helps kind of put them together, it'll actually route you to each as you need to go cook them throughout the week.
Yeah, exactly.
That's super cool. What's been actually, maybe before we go there, competitors. Are there competitors in this space or alternatives? I guess there's definitely alternatives, I would imagine, but are there competitors as well?
Yeah, there's definitely both alternatives and competitors. With regards to the alternatives, as we talked a bit earlier, in terms of food services, we're actually looking for the ones where it doesn't fit the bill for our customer segment. But in terms of competition, there's different apps either that are focused on kind of saving you money, or there's apps that are focused on helping you get recipe ideas and etc. Where we haven't found good alternative options is where you can offer curated recipe variety with a large assortment from the web, as well as being able to recommend personalized meal plans dynamically. Usually, you'll have a large access to recipes, but then you need to build your plan yourself. So we're really looking to streamline the process end to end, and we haven't found a lot of good options for that. None in Canada, and limited competitors in the US. So
That's cool. That's it means you just got to keep moving fast, but that it sounds like you're on to something. Now, where or how do you at Seven Dish make money? Is this something I would subscribe to as a user and pay monthly, or how does that work?
yeah, so we're looking at two potential revenue streams. So we haven't launched yet, but essentially we're looking at a transaction fee for grocery stores for online orders that are placed by users, and we intend to make that flow as a free service for users. And we'll have a premium subscription, which is going to be a monthly fee for families. That subscribe to the service and want to get access to 100% of the capabilities.
And I mean, it seems like it would be pretty rational based on just the food cost savings alone, never mind the time and variety that it'll provide. So it sounds like you've got a great model there and a lot of value that people would pay for just to save them time and efficiency, especially if over time you're helping optimize their cart, their shopping list. You might be saving. Do you have a sense of how many hours a week you might save people that are using Seven Dish?
Um, yeah, I mean it's something that'll vary based on the family profile, but easily save 2 to 3 hours a week on average for sure.
That's pretty impressive. Even if you make $20 an hour, you could save yourself $60 to $80 worth of time, which is pretty impressive. What's been your favorite or maybe most memorable story in your journey so far as you've been building up Seven Dish?
I think one of the very interesting things is around our kind of validation of our business model that we've done last year, and speaking to customers or potential customers, and understanding how deeply we can impact their quality of life and the positive impact we can have on their lives is a great motivator for the business. So that was a great sequence. Really enjoyed it, and looking forward to be able to bring it to life and help them concretely.
What would you say has been the hardest part, though?
I mean, the hardest part is wanting to go always faster than the resources and time you have available. Being able to really focus on what we can do to solve for that ideal customer segment's problems first and foremost, and prioritize ruthlessly against anything else, to be able to get and hit some milestones. So. And what was great about spending time with customers is that it helps you to zero in on what that is.
Yeah, and I'm confident based on your previous experience at Accenture and Orchestra, your concept of speed, prioritization, and now layered in with talking to potential customers or customers, families truly facing this is going to bring that to life. Now you said what stage are you at? You said you're about to launch or you just launched. Talk us through that a little bit, and I guess maybe even weave into that where you are today and maybe what the next 6 months look like for Seven Dish.
Sure. So currently we're in development, and we're looking to get a first version as the beta or MVP in March, so around the March timeframe. So it looks like it's going to be tomorrow, being in January already, but it's pretty exciting. So so that's where we're at from a product perspective, and we're going to make this available as a web and mobile application. And in the next 6 months, we're really looking, well, first off, to launch our beta and to get as much feedback and understanding from our beta users to hone and tweak the product to make it great for that customer segment, and to be able to launch sometime at the beginning of the fall.
All right. So coming in March, do you have a sense of how many beta users you would love to sort of see in your pool? And is the beta going to be regionally restricted? Is it Canada wide, just in Quebec, multi-market, North America? What's sort of like the thinking on the beta rollout?
Yeah, so we're looking initially to have a closed beta, and get first cohort under 100 users, and really learn from that first experience. From past experience, this is where the bulk of some of the surprises come. So we'll get to learn from that, and then go gradually based on the experience, based on the feedback. We're going to increase the size of that beta and learn from subsequent cohorts. And that's where we're giving ourselves a 6 month period to be able to test out with different cohorts of users, and eventually we'll probably going to open up the beta afterwards, before launch, to get a critical mass of users.
That's amazing. And do you have a rough timeline on when you would love to see this GA and market, at least for Canadians?
Yeah, it would be beginning of the fall.
Beginning of the fall. Okay. And so I'm probably going to sign up, but for anyone else interested, where should they go if they want to sign up, either to be part of the beta, or GA? And you said the beta is going to be about 100 people, but is it specific to a region or just specific to a number of people?
It's gonna be most probably focused on Canada first
Okay.
for the initial beta, but you can benefit from the application even if you're from the US or another region. So that it's not everywhere, from the beginning to your shopping list. You're not limited geographically. For buying groceries, you'll be limited by certain geographies or participating grocery stores to start with.
That makes sense. And I guess as part of this, do you make the relationships also with the participating grocery stores? Is that like also, I guess, one of your customers? Is this partially a
Yes, that's
double-sided marketplace at the end of the day?
well, for placing an actual order, there needs to be a relationship with the grocery store, and the closer the relationship with the grocery store, the more value we can bring to customers that are shoppers for that store chain. So yes, in that sense, that there's two parties involved.
Awesome. Are you also looking for, if we have someone that's listening to the podcast by chance that's also in this space, are you looking to bring on more grocers and retailers at this time? Or is that after the initial 100 user beta that you'll be kind of crossing that bridge?
We're going to start with the initial ones, but
Okay.
any grocery chain that would be interested in participating or starting a conversation, are more than happy to have a discussion with them.
That's amazing. So if people want to sign up, where should they go?
They can go on 7dish.com and just sign up to our beta waiting list, and then they'll be up to date with our progress and when it's actually going to launch. And depending on region and interest will shape up our first cohort for the March timeframe.
That's amazing. And so it's the actual number 7dish.com. And if people wanted to follow updates, is it best to do that just via the website, LinkedIn, Instagram? What are sort of the means that you're keeping in touch with your current or prospective customers?
Yeah, for the moment, it's going to be through the mailing list, and we're eventually going to start ramping up on social media presence in the spring when we launch the beta.
Nice, super exciting. This is sort of I love watching people at the different stages of the journey. I think so far from a bunch of the people we've talked to, you're maybe earliest on in the development of this. So it'll be really cool to watch the evolution of something that I'm sure so many families are going to see absolute value in. I can already picture a bunch of people at work that complain about this to me regularly, immediately going to go and sign up, whether it be for the beta or the alpha over time. When you sort of look longer range, 5 years down the road, maybe, I'm sure you've got an aspirational state for 7dish. Is there like a longer range vision of how you see this product impacting the world around us?
Well, I think if you look at it at a higher level, our goal ultimately is to improve the quality of life and health of families at home, right? So if we're able in 5 years to help several hundred thousands of families to achieve that goal, then that would be a good aspiration for the next 5 years.
That's super cool. I'd love to, over time, as it goes out, I think there's like something really around this like food waste piece, which at least I'm seeing as we kind of think about sustainability left to right across Canada, that I think is going to be so critical to being able to even amplify your story. That is like the incremental benefit. You're saving time, saving money, and the overall reduction in food waste could solve so many global problems. And so it's amazing. It's amazing to see what you're up to.
Yeah, and it's a great point that you bring up, because food waste is a massive global problem, and I think it's a problem that's understated to some extent. People aren't necessarily aware of the global impact. They're aware of the impact in their own kitchen, but when you look at the billions of dollars worth of food that's wasted every year, it's a massive problem. So if we can help reduce a portion of that food waste and be able to help with the health of the planet as well, we'll have achieved quite a bit ultimately.
Definitely. And I know on your website, we are cooking an AI-based food assistant. Before we started the podcast today, we were talking very briefly about OpenAI. Do you see OpenAI having a role in 7dish or accelerating the work you're doing, or how does that sort of play in?
Well, I think irrespectively if it's OpenAI or not, the fact of having some type of conversation with customers and to be able to understand them and their context is going to really help provide the right recommendations for each family. So in that sense, the personal assistant is really to feel that you've got somebody that has your back and that knows where you're at in either your diet changes, needs, or allergies that your children have, and really to be able to support you, because nutritional needs isn't something that's static in time. It's something that evolves as your family evolve, as your kids grow up. So if we can be good enough to understand how these things evolve through your behavior, through your needs, then we'll really be able to provide value on a long-term basis, as opposed to just on a transaction.
That's amazing. Vincent, there's one other thing. It's a bit of a surprise. I didn't tell you we were going to do this, but I do it with every guest. Pitch Please podcast is really hard to say multiple times fast, but we're trying to do a bit of a competition to see, of all of the guests coming onto the show, who can say Pitch Please podcast the most times in a row without getting tripped up. So if you've got water around you, have a sip of water. I want to see where you rank. I'm not going to tell you where you rank. You're going to have to listen to the podcast to figure out if you're at the top or the bottom of the ranking. But whenever you're ready, you go and I'll keep count.
Sounds good. Pitch Please Podcast, 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 Pitch Please Scott. There you go.
That was pretty impressive. I think I counted like 23. That was really impressive.
Well, we'll see where
you rank. Vincent, before we sort of kind of do the wrap on the show, is there anything that you wanted to mention about 7dish, about yourself, the journey that we didn't cover today?
No, I think that was a pretty good coverage. Well, I mean, thank you very much for the opportunity. It was great to have the chat with you.
Well, thank you, Vincent. Thank you, everyone else who tuned in today and joined another episode on the Pitch Please podcast. Make sure to tune in. We'll be releasing these on a regular basis and talking to amazing founders and startups across Canada, just like Vincent and 7dish. Vincent, great luck on your upcoming release of your beta in March. We wish you all the best and look forward to watching and continuing along the journey.
Thank you very much, Mike. Very appreciated.